All right, so here's Ricky Wright is the lifter warming up. Got 145 on the bar. I guess we got a Texas squat bar in there. So we're gonna give you behind. Let's take about 20 minutes for warm up, and then we'll take your opener around like 9:10.
Do what? What'd you say?
So let's take about 20 minutes to warm up, and we'll take your opener at 9:10, so you're not rushing too much.
Okay.
And then we'll just kind of push everything back like 10 minutes.
Hey, you want to put another 25?
Yeah, it's over here.
I'm going to provide a little commentary for the replay. So Ricky Wright's the lifter. His meet was canceled. And we're doing a little mock contest. Ricky's getting ready for the WRPF showdown meet in upstate New York in September. So it's a little tune-up for him. We're going to take about 20 minutes to warm up, and then we're going to take 3 attempts like a meet. Melon's going to be the head judge.
35, 725, 775, 825. Right.
Ricky's going to be using the monolift on this day, save his energy, get a good stable setup, good pick here. Doing a good job of wedging the bar in between his trap and his belt here. Good. That was better. Third one is your best.
Do what?
Good spot in terms of depth. I want you to continue to focus on getting a little bit more of a breath into your on that.
Okay.
Step.
Okay.
Feel free to put on like your knee sleeves whenever you need to.
Yes, sir.
No need to, you don't get any style points for going naked knees in your warm-ups. So.
Yes, sir.
Melon, is there any way we can get we do get style points or no?
I think just pulling conventional. You just get points deducted.
Okay, he does pull conventional, so you get some.
Yeah. That's about it.
So we got 325 on the bar for next warm up. We're going to start to put the knee sleeves on, start to add a little bit more equipment. Typically in a meet situation, you're going to probably only have time for 5 or 6 warm ups. Ricky's going to take about 7 warm ups or so, just kind of do plate jumps, usually for the bigger guys, those 90-pound jumps. Fine.
At 215 Devo.
90 pounds for an 800-pound squatter is not 100%. It's a little bit more than 10% jump. That works out pretty well.
Yeah, I'm gonna snack on that meal. Turkey. All right.
Brought a little baby one.
Hey, cards, man. Good cards.
So Ricky had a good breakfast, had some good carbs, some oatmeal. He's got fluids and salt, hydrated. Ricky's body weight was. So we had Ricky weigh in last night. His official scale weight was 274.4. So the goal was to have him be in the 275. I'm guessing he's probably sitting, somewhere between 275 and 280 this morning. But he was 274 as the official weigh-in last night. So you got about 15 minutes before your opening attempt.
See where you're saying or couple to my squat. I'm really looking at it. Maybe my shoot back. I'll say you
Do you get any additional, Mel, in your experience, you get any additional help for having matching socks or no, or that's
I think matching socks is going to make or break the lift. So it's very important.
My lucky socks.
It's all about the outfit coordination. No one cares how much you lift. They care how you dress.
It is funny that I know sometimes a lot of our lifters get superstitious about what they wear on the day and stuff. So there might be something to that. But I think having some sort of ritual, whether it be what you eat or what you wear, I think that can be consideration when you're a higher level athlete.
Yeah, it wasn't that when they got these, and we had a big fire down there.
You eat your knees. I said, you eat your knees.
Some of us like to have that. Some of us like to eat
I gave my leg. I gave my foot in all. I got for a boat. Bottom from a boat, for a boat. Yeah.
Strong pick here. Come on. Good. That's better. That's it. Good. Good. So you can feel free to add your belt, either the next one or add 5 plates, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I need somebody kind of listen to me all the time.
I liked the bracing better on that one. That was good. 415 on the bar now.
That thing will work with me. Suck balls.
Well, I was just saying to get before I'm not sure you can hear what he's saying. So that's it, Ricky's got his headphones, so be all right.
Where they go? You take it all 7. Oh dear. Okay, right now I'm using fresh air. I'm going to go for a walk and I'll be in. Notice tonight, watching everything. You try to do a better job than you did for me lunchtime. Okay.
So Ricky's using a Pioneer lever belt.
Absolutely normal for this race.
Lever belts can help save energy. The downside of the lever belt is you do need to adjust it potentially for squat and deadlift if you like a different tightness. Well, let's rock and roll. There's a 415 on the bar.
All right, squat man. Start flat.
Start. Right.
Good. Ricky, can you hear me from there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to keep this official. So you got 10 minutes before your opener. So let's
Yes, sir.
Let's take the next two pretty quick, and then we
Okay.
can slow down the last one. So we'll go 5, 6, rest a little bit, 7. So we'll go 505, 595. Mel, for the people that may be watching the replay, when you know you're a little bit behind on your warm-ups, like what's a good way to kind of keep your cool and any kind of advice for people if you know you're kind of a little bit behind on the warm-ups, but still want to keep your cool?
What happens if you
I think it's like, being confident in yourself, knowing that, all right, maybe I have to, instead of taking 2 separate warm-ups, find a weight that's in the middle of them and just take that and then go on the platform. But realizing that, at the end of the day, there's never going to be optimal conditions. You have to have that faith in yourself that, you went in there not expecting everything to go perfect, but you're going to put on your best effort anyway. Because I think I've been in that position where we've had to like trim my warm-ups and I was fine. So I think don't be married to your warm-ups. Don't think that is critical. I mean, yeah, warm-ups are important, but sometimes you have to alter the script a little bit and you can still see success.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially especially sometimes like a national meet or things like that, where you're not familiar with the meet director, you're not familiar with some of the situations that might arise. I think at the XPC this year, we had a lifter get hurt, and that kind of that really changed the game a lot. So just kind of being alert on what's going on the platform is important, and be okay with if you have to take a warm up out. Your opener should be light enough that you can kind of take that. No matter what the situation. So Ricky's starting to get more focused. He's getting his head right. He's set up the same way every time. He's got his singlet straps up. He's got 3 more warm-ups left before his opening attempt. Get 505 on the bar now. Still a light weight for him. And you want to treat that bar like it's 800 pounds. Set up the same way every single time. Air in the belt. How you feeling, my man?
Good, really good.
Good. We'll do one more kind of quick, and then we'll just take a longer rest. So we'll go up to 595 next. I like the setup. I like the bracing is better. If you want, I don't know how hot it is over there, but you might want to get a little chalk on your back now before you get sweaty.
Yes, sir. I already have it on there.
Perfect. Good man.
I got the fan on it here too.
You're gonna open the door.
I do. I always do the Donnie Thompson towel on the head in between attempts. That's my go-to.
What, a wet towel?
I just do when it's if it's a summer meet for sure. I always get that the towel, especially in my super heavyweight days. That was very important.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's been times with myself where sometimes you got to take a warm-up out or skip it. I've one of my biggest one time I had to go from a 695 685 up to I had to jump from 685 to I think my opener was like 830 or something at the time.
Ooh,
That was a
damn.
very big jump. I ended up at the time I when I was a super heavyweight, I ended up the spotters ended up grabbing me because I dipped to get depth. So they ended up grabbing me. I ended up going up again, hit 855 and then hit 900. That was when I hit my 900 on my third attempt. It went up pretty smooth, but yeah, I took a really big jump, and like I said, my goal was 900 that day. So like to me, like I wasn't really worried about 830. So I kind of just I took it. It wasn't ideal, but I ended up having a really good result, in terms of my squatting that day. I remember we were warming up on this, and this is no offense to the, it was like a made in China monolift, and the whole space is 2 inches apart.
Oh boy.
And it was, so the rack height was off. It was not great warm-up conditions, but you kind of make do with what you have. Now most of the meets you have similar equipment, but there are some times where it's not the case. The equipment is very different, and we had to adapt. And when you're using that kind of weight, the whole spacing on the monolift and things like that can make a huge difference in terms of your setup, in terms of your balance. So but you have to kind of be ready for those kind of situations. So you can see Ricky starting to add more equipment as the weight was going up. So starting to add wrist wraps. He's got his belt on, his knee sleeves on. Ricky is what we call a sleeves lifter. So some people call that raw classic. It's minimal equipment. Mostly just supportive. The knee sleeves don't really add too much bandage.
This warm up and the next one, then first. Yeah.
We got 595 on the bar, second to last warm up here for Ricky Wright. 6 plates per side. If people are watching this after the fact, if you're new to powerlifting, the wrist wrap's going to provide support for the wrist joint. It's also going to supply support for the lumbar, the low back. The knee sleeves are going to provide support at the knee joint. So all these joints are going to be like load bearing in some capacity and provide support to the lifter. Same way, just like last set. Good. Very nice.
Nice.
So the last warm-up is going to be 685 on the bar. 7 plates per side. It's very possible we may see more things like this in the future. Whether this will be people will have sanctioned meets online or not, I don't know. But we wanted to kind of give the feel of a contest without actually having a physical one. And we're trying to keep the conditions as close to a true competition as possible, so he's kind of ready for his showdown meet in September. We've got a lot of great lifters doing that showdown meet. A lot of world record holders, a lot of nationally ranked and world ranked lifters. Ricky's a top ranked 275er right now. He's looking to climb the ranks. When you're getting ready for a meet that's not local, not in your backyard, Mel, like what are some things that people need to kind of take note of when you're traveling and you're doing a national level competition, or just something that's kind of outside of where you normally compete?
I am like really big on making a list, and I'm really big on like making the list as easy as possible. So I'll have like a spreadsheet, and I'll have a squat column, a bench column, a deadlift column, and like a miscellaneous column. And I'll just like type everything out that I know that I need, especially just with all the gear. But I would also say don't anticipate convenience, because you don't know what the conditions are going to be like. For example, like when we got to Ohio, if we had gotten there a little bit later, there would have been store closures and stuff because of COVID. So if I had relied on that and stuff had closed, I wouldn't have been able to pick up food or snacks or whatever. You just don't know what's going to happen. Where if you're traveling or you don't know the area, I would bank on, unless you're absolutely certain that you can get something up there, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to pack, extra electrolytes or Noon tablets or something. But don't be lazy and leave it for when you get there, because you really have no idea what you're walking into.
All right, last warm up here, 685 on the bar.
Sam, I'm gonna get you behind me. Go.
This is typically like a last warm-up for me as well. Usually this is a good kind of last warm-up if you're opener somewhere in the 700 range. It's heavy enough that you can kind of feel the weight, but light enough where it shouldn't overly tax you too much. That's what an opener should be. An opener should be a good gauge. Usually like a last warm-up should be somewhere
that's fine.
85 and 87%. Is usually a good kind of, somewhere in that range. Definitely it's a good place to start to prepare your body for your first attempt to meet.
There ain't videos that didn't happen. Woo. Oh.
Come on now. Come on. Tight. How you feeling, my man? So you're gonna add 2 10s per side. That'll be 725. Ricky, come here. I need your weight over your midfoot more, okay?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna use the restroom really quick.
Yep, use the restroom, and then we'll kind of hit it when we come back, okay? I've always found after my opener, like kind of the jitters go away. Nailing that first lift is really important. Kind of sets the tone for the day. You know, we always talk about better start, better finish. So if you can kind of nail that first attempt, it really helps build momentum going into the rest of the day. If you kind of have a hard time with your opener, it's really kind of hard to come back from that if you kind of botch your first squat. So really important you kind of set the tone for the day and kind of nail that first one.
I'm the only one that's allowed to yell at
Another really kind of, interesting thing, but especially if you're an equipped lifter is, timing, like when you go to the bathroom is like critical. It sounds really kind of obvious, but I think a lot of people kind of take that into account sometimes, especially when you're in a squat suit or something like that. If you need to be involved with wraps lifter, timing becomes more and more important the more equipment you have. So kind of being mindful of getting as much out of your body, making sure you're hydrated not just the day of, but the night before. So you kind of have all that kind of already in your body, so you don't have to go crazy like the morning of in terms of eating, in terms of the last thing that you want is having to like run to the bathroom on deck or in the hole. In terms of like timing your nutrition, Mel, like what are some things that you found helpful for yourself?
Don't get crazy the day of the meet, especially if you travel and stuff. Like I know Ohio had like food stands and stuff, and that's just not the day to get creative and be like, oh, I want to try, like save that for after. Especially going back to the equipment and timing the bathrooms. If you have no idea how your body's going to react, don't get too wild with it. But it also depends on like preference. Like I know there's people that can sit in the middle of a meet and have like a meatball Parmesan, Subway sandwich that's like 3 feet long, and I can barely hold down like jelly beans. So it really depends on the person. But you got to play with kind of what finds what works for you. More isn't always better. I know that if I tried to force feed myself a whole meal, I would probably get pretty sick. So kind of just finding what works for you.
Good advice. I also think that it's like also not the time to like, go to, if you like, Ohio's a good example. Like we don't have like Bob Evans by us, but like don't try out Bob Evans for the first time. Even if you heard like that's like, that's what the boys at Westside have before, you have what you normally have, eat foods that you normally eat, so your kind of body knows how to digest them. You're not changing anything too drastically. So. All right, so Ricky Wright is on deck. Oh, we got the king. We got a second judge on the line. All right.
Oh, man. He's here to throw some red lights.
The bar is loaded with 725 pounds for Ricky Wright. This is an opening attempt in the 275 class. This is a 725-pound opening attempt for Ricky Wright. All right, let's get spotters, judges, and loaders to the platform area. You have 60 seconds on the clock to complete your attempt. So let's get spotters, judges, loaders to the platform area. Let's get the spotters in position. All right, same way. Stay over the midfoot. Get that back tight. Come on. Start it up. Come on. Bar is loaded for Ricky Wright. 725 on the bar, opening attempt. Let's get tight. 725 opener. Let's nail it. Come on. Stay back. Come on. Strong pick. Come on.
Nice.
Judges say
Good.
it's a good lift. Ricky, how do you feel?
775.
So we need another plate on there. Ricky, how do you feel? Okay. So a pretty solid attempt. I'd like to see Ricky do a better job on his bracing into his belly a little bit, kind of breathe a little bit too much into his chest on that one. He settled the weight good. I thought he exploded at the bottom, hit a good spot. We got to lock the upper back down a little bit better on the next set. As we get into upper 7, low 800 range, that upper back position becomes so important. A little bit of a misstep can cause a real issue, and it can get poorly quick. But that looked really good, rewatching the video. So we're going to stick to the plan. Second attempt is going to be 775.
No. No. Stop. Let go.
Get 8 plates per side, 55-pound barbell.
Ask me what time. Say this all time is going to do something.
Hey, what time do you want to do his second attempt?
He's got 5 minutes, so it's gonna be, we're gonna go every attempt's gonna be 10 minutes in between. So he's got 5 minutes to rest.
Okay.
So at 9:30, so you got 5 minutes on the clock right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna the pacing is gonna be a little bit quicker than a normal meet. Usually in a flight, you might have 15 people or so. So a lot of times you'll have like 15, sometimes even upwards of 20 minutes in between attempts, depending on factors like if there's a big difference in strength of the. Obviously, there's going to take. If let's say if you have 1,000-pound squatter in a flight, and there's also 500-pound squatters, it's going to take time to unload and reload the bar. Attempts are closer together, there's going to be less time in between attempts. If people are wrapping their knees, there's going to be more time in between attempts. These are some things to consider when you're kind of pacing, but it never hurts to be in better shape. If you can kind of recover quicker in between sets, that's going to be an advantage for you when you're on the platform.
Yeah, I was looking for there. People I got one.
In this particular mock meet, we're just kind of using standard powerlifting rules. We're using a start command for the squat. The start command is issued to the lifter when the lifter is fully erect with the hips and the knees locked out, and the lifter is in control of the weight. I will usually give the head judge like a nod just to kind of let them know I'm ready. Now, after the head judge says start or squat, the lifter does not have to go down immediately. The lifter can ready, but once they issue a squat command, the bar is live at that point. You can't re-rack the bar. You can't walk it back in. You must start the lift, and it must go into one continuous motion. As you start to come down, the weight must continue to come back up. It can stall, but it cannot dip down. And then once you complete the rep, you're fully erect, you will get a rack command. So you can't stumble, you can't move your feet. You have to make sure that you show control of the weight in the squat. The biggest thing that we're looking for in terms of the squat is that the hip crease is below the knee. And that's what we call a good depth or a below parallel squat, which can be more challenging to see because a lot of times a judge is asked to watch 2 points at the same time. So a lot of times we'll be as a judge, we're watching the hip crease, and we want to make sure in the corner of our eye, we want to make sure that hip is slightly below the knee. A good way to think about it, if water was running down the thigh, it would come toward the hip joint slightly. If we're looking for, it doesn't need to be butt to heels, but we want to make sure that the squat is below parallel. And like we talked about in many podcasts and episodes in the past, it's kind of like an umpire strike zone. What someone might look as a good squat or look at what's good depth is going to be a little bit different for everyone. It's open to interpretation. But we want to try to hold our lifters to a high standard, so no matter what meet they go to, they are going to get right lights. In order for the lift to count, we need 2 out of 3 judges to deem the lift a good lift. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about squat depth now and what your experience is with that, competing to compete as an equipped lifter, and kind of like what that means in terms of like a judging standard.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely like one thing I have to say is like, especially at XPC this year, definitely was at least from what I saw, like a consistency of standard where they were not giving me like the license to have equipped depth, so to speak. like they were really making me work for it, and that's something that you know, kind of depends on the federation. And I think that to an extent, I think that standards like that kind of keep the sport honest.
Let's go, big boy.
You know, I think especially with social media, people are used to seeing high squats get passed and stuff like that. But RPS and XPC, just from what I've seen, tend to be really good at making sure everyone's got, you know, the same standard to uphold.
Cool. All right, so we got 775 on the bar. This is a second attempt for Ricky Wright.
Trying to look like Eric Bridge.
All right, 775 on the bar for Ricky Wright. This is his second attempt. Bar is loaded.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm trying to be like.
Same spot here. Come on.
No, they're dogs. This is dogs.
Second attempt for Ricky Wright, 775 on the bar. Let's go. Come on. Let's get tight here. Come on. Same way. Come on. Take back. Pump him in. You might want to drop the rack like a half or one hole. Ricky, can you hear me? Can one of you guys grab Ricky for me? Yeah.
Tell him, tell him I fell on my toes at lockout.
He fell on his toes at lockout.
Yeah, no, I saw it. He's got to screw his feet into the ground a little bit better. And I would drop the rack like maybe half. So just drop the rack a little bit because I think it was just a little bit too high. Because he was kind of missing it on the way up. So I think just setting the rack a tiny bit lower, just like half a hole would be good.
Okay.
You guys, for his last attempt, we could throw a quarter on, so that'll be 825, and then we'll shut it down for squats.
Okay.
825.
If you want, guys, can just double check to make sure his body feels good though.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I just have to report one thing. I'm trying to know.
Hey, sir, you there?
Yes, sir.
I got to be a little bit more patient on my descend.
Yes.
When I got parallel, it came up fast. 825 is definitely there easily, but I got on my toes as soon as I got the lockout.
Yep. Yeah, you need to you gotta like really just screw your feet in the ground a little bit more, and then just shove out harder as you're coming down. That'll give you more control. I liked the speed looked great. So let's just nail this. Let's nail it. Let's hit it real clean, and then we'll move on to bench. How does your body feel?
Amazing.
Okay.
I'm strong.
Great. Okay. All right. We're gonna do not 9:40 at 9. So 5 minutes. You're gonna start to get set up again, but just take your time. Make sure your heart rate is down. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let's take 5. Once 9:40, then we'll kind of you can start to set up. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Doing great. I don't know if I know Mel sometimes, especially in equipment. Sometimes I know like Ricky kind of did a good job of saving it, but I don't know if you ever when you're kind of losing your balance like that or kind of shifting onto your toes. What are some kind of ways to kind of help save the weight and make sure that you're not taking a step with the weight?
I mean, I think a lot of it for me that was a game changer was building that upper back strength and having that ability to stay stable. But also kind of just staying calm and really rapidly assessing if it's even worth the struggle. Like I know there's been times I've lost my balance and I've just called for my spotters just because, especially out of competition, like if you're training, it's different where it's like, don't be a hero. No one cares if you saved, and grinded out nasty lift during training. On the platform, I do think you kind of need to be more aware, especially can you salvage it? Is it worth it? Is it going to mess up the rest of your feet? So on. But I think no matter what, being strong and having a level head helps.
Yeah, I know. One thing I think that can help too is thinking about like that tripod foot that'll help prevent it. So I know a lot of times like we talk about sitting back and staying on your heels and stuff, but also kind of pushing your big toe into the ground while twisting your feet in the floor is really important. Having more of a contact and rooting your feet into the ground is going to be super important. And just if you could always keep your weight over your midfoot, that'll definitely help prevent that from happening. As you know, like if you're kind of off a little bit with those big weights, you can really kind of get a little squirrely fast. So good job for Ricky by not taking a step there. It was definitely a close call, but he was able to stand up with the weight and finish it.
That's when I'll call. Until then, you're going to go.
And I think Jose, you could talk. You need to get that.
Sucks. Yeah. That was a long time.
Yes.
I was like, all right, what are you doing right now? I don't know what you're doing.
Jose, you can talk, but yeah, your equipment should be on your body before you get to the platform. Your belt, your wrist wrap, and your wrap should all be on your body before you get to the platform.
I almost need somebody to call. I'm simply not knowing.
So third attempt squat's really critical, depending on, you know, if you're doing a sleeved meet or a wrap meet. So in general, as for me being an equipped lifter or wraps lifter, squat is going to be the biggest percentage. For some sleeved lifters, it might be their deadlift. So usually as a sleeve lifter, I usually tend to play a little more conservative and really try to go 3 for 3. Just being that usually the deadlift is going to be the biggest portion of the total for a sleeved lifter, whereas an equipped lifter or a wellness wraps lifter, you may need to roll the dice and push the squat a little bit more because that's going to be a bigger percentage of the total. So these are all different strategies that you can use when you're competing and you're planning your attempts. You also want to consider the back strength that's going to take the third attempt and how that's going to affect your bench and your deadlift later on in the
You know what I mean? It really didn't matter. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel this weight. It's going to be dead. That's awesome. So, this, take it like you want to take it. We'll just go with where we're at. You got the spot. You got everything you need.
All right, so bar is loaded with 825 on the bar. This is Ricky's third attempt.
Two minutes.
This is a 3 times body weight squat for Ricky. Jose is not impressed by that number, I don't think. You need at least 4 times body weight, right? Jose will always be like, that's like 1.5 times his body weight.
How strong? You got strong? See a hit, bro. See a hit, bro.
John.
Yes, sir.
Wow, Matt, to be impressed.
All right, bar is loaded for Ricky Wright. Third attempt, 825.
All right, slow.
Same way. Don't get overly excited. Just do it the same way, just like clockwork. Come on. Don't change a thing. Get tighter. Keep your position. Come on. Lock it in. Let's go, Ricky. Come on. Smash it. Good setup here. Come on, strong pick.
Come on.
whatever it is called.
It's like the ones after.
Yep.
All right, third attempt, 825 on the bar. Ricky Wright, 275 lifter. Let's go. Lock it in tight. Come on. Let's go, Ricky. Settle the weight. Come on. Take back. Get tall. Tight. Good job, brother. All right, 10 guys, 10:15 is going to be bench start time. You got 30 minutes. Get a little food in you.
Yes, sir.
You got 30 minutes.
How'd you like that?
Good. I think I don't know if I think someone might have called you up a little early, but I think you still went a little bit lower. So I was happy. I think that was the right number for today. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, so was it right depth?
I think it was a little higher than the one before, but it didn't look too bad.
I feel like I sunk the one before.
Yeah, I know. I think that maybe like would have been like 2-1, or it looked okay from my angle. I mean, you can let Mel and Jose can give you a red or a white, but I'm happy with it from my view.
Yes, sir.
It was close. I wouldn't go any higher than that.
Yeah, no, we're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
we're gonna shut it down there. I think I'm happy. That's a good gym lift.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I think at the WRPF we might need to take it down like a half inch.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Well,
happy.
the only thing, a lot of the reason, no excuses, but a lot of the reason why I did that is we watched the last video, and where I went a little too deep, I butt wink hit, and
Yeah, no,
I
absolutely.
watched it.
I'm happy with that, brother. Get some food in you. Take like 5-10 minutes to just get your heart rate down and chill. And at 10:30 we'll take 500 your opener. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good work. So Mel and Jose, you guys could both you can chime in. So after like your third squat is done, what are some things that you guys are doing as far as to rehydrate and kind of get your mind right to get ready for bench?
One thing I do is I take some fast acting carbs right away, some candy or something with high sugar, just to get everything back. Get a nice jolt of energy, and then I eat some mostly rice and beef or rice and chicken or something like that. Nothing too heavy.
Which is usually that's usually a normal meal that you would like eat anyway, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't mix anything up. I don't get cute when it comes to a meat day or anything like that.
In terms of like the fast acting carbs, are you taking that like in a drink or like a powder, or like what is that?
The Sour Patch Kids are always it's like a tradition around us.
That's your like tradition for like heavy day, right? Yep.
Yeah, so something like that, and something with no fat, just strictly sugar.
Yeah, and like the low fat is a big one. I think a lot of people miss out on that because they think like, oh, I'm gonna have a donut or whatever, and I don't think that's the best option. Fat's gonna slow down your absorption and it's just gonna be a little bit heavier in your stomach. I think that's a really good point that people miss. Having pancakes with butter is not really the best like option in my opinion. So keeping the fat low, keeping the carbs a little bit higher on the glycemic index.
Mel,
Mel, you have anything to kind of add to that as far as like what you do personally, or just tips as far as like intra workout or during the meet? I know we kind of talked about as far as like food choices that you like personally.
Definitely get the electrolytes in there. Keep hydrating. You don't want to choke. The hydration should kind of be a steady thing and kind of a steady drip the entire time. But also make sure, assess. Are you cramping? How many electrolytes do you need to play catch up? Like I know for me, I was also the Pedialyte powder. I was just shotgunning it and putting cold food powder in my mouth, and that was what I had to do to stay on top of it. But don't fall behind the hydration.
Cool. I think that's really good advice. Keep the fat low, keep the carbs high. For the people that are listening that are maybe newer, like, can you provide some examples of like what an electrolyte is? I mean, what it does, and what are some of the electrolytes that you, I know like, whether that be in the form of Noon and Pedialyte. Can you talk about like, what the electrolytes are that we're looking for? And maybe what do you use to like personally?
So I had a lot of success, and I think it worked really well. It was like the ultimate test because I had a pretty gnarly weight cut in March, and I took coconut water and I mixed that with the Pedialyte Advanced Care powder, and they just have pretty different electrolyte profiles. So like, for example, the coconut water has a lot more potassium, magnesium. It's got phosphorus. It's got I think it's got calcium in there too. And then Pedialyte's very high on the sodium. And also has more carbs in it. So between the two of them, it had a pretty complete profile of all the electrolytes you're going to lose when you sweat, when you water cut, and a good amount of carbs between them as well. So if I didn't want to keep eating, which for me I don't like, it did allow me to drink a lot of my carbs, which for me is better because it forced me to also keep drinking.
Cool. Yeah, sodium is a big one. Potassium is a big one. Magnesium. I would say sodium, potassium, probably the most important. It's going to help prevent cramping and help with muscle contraction, which is really important. I like the Noon. I like the LMT powder. Jose, is there any type of electrolytes that you prefer on game day or for training? Like, which ones do you like to use?
With me, when it comes to a meet, my stomach is usually uneasy, so anything that like a Noon tab or anything like that, anything with like these weird flavors, I don't tend to, my stomach doesn't agree with. So I just take salt pills.
Easy.
I do drink a lot of water. One thing I'm always doing, because I cramp a lot, especially in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing, I would, you have to check your pee every single time you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You have to keep monitoring that, because that'll tell you a lot, especially if you're wanting to cramp like I do.
Yeah, that could be a make or break moment in terms of your performance, especially if it's a hotter day, if it's a warmer meet.
If you did a big weight cut or anything like that.
Absolutely. Cool. Very cool. And I know sometimes, especially with our gym in particular, this is not the case. Ricky's a pretty good bencher. We should see him benching like the mid 500s today. A lot of our lifters are, I'd say, more talented in general in the squat and in the deadlift. It's really important that you kind of still take the bench seriously. It's a lot of times, I know with even myself or some of our other lifters, like sometimes you kind of take the bench off a little bit mentally, because especially after a really big squat. So what are some things that you guys do to help kind of prepare and make sure your head is still in the game? Like after like maybe you hit a really big squat. I know sometimes people kind of underestimate the emotional toll. For example, when I squatted 800 on my last meet, it was such like an emotional like relief that like I kind of botched my bench. So people don't really also not only take into account the physical toll it may take on your body, but also how do you kind of also make sure you're mentally prepared to kind of get into that next event?
I like caffeine. I think like the week of the meet, I weaned myself off a lot. So that way the day of, and the week before too, I give myself like 2 weeks to taper down and rebuild the sensitivity to it. And then going into the squats, I didn't use any caffeine at all. And I saved it actually for a little bit before the bench was going to start. So that way it would kind of kick in around the second or third attempts. And then took a break and then had a little bit more before the deadlifts. But I know for me, it's less of a because I think for me it's kind of become a thing where dropping all the body weight, I really care about keeping my bench at least the same relative to how I was when I was heavier. So I actually am a little bit emotionally invested in my bench, probably a little more than the average person is. But I definitely feel the fatigue. You almost feel like drowsy and messed up, especially after squatting in equipment. So I just need that little extra kick so I'm not falling asleep in the corner. But also being mindful that, you know, if you're in equipment, or even if you're not in equipment, but if you're at a big venue with huge crowds, you don't want to be running to the bathroom every 5 minutes. So just use that sparingly, because you don't have to be like shoving people out of the way to go pee and you're on deck.
Very important. Very important. Also, a pro tip, if you're handling somebody that's got a big bench, don't be afraid to put a belt on when you're handing them off. Really important. And this is a whey protein and collagen protein concoction I made. This is my little snack for the day. It's a little protein pudding. And get my protons in for the day. It's going to be interesting to see how meets are going to be running in the future in terms of just sporting events in general. So I think we may see more things like this. And, you know, just be open to, if you guys are listening or watching after the fact, be open to other possibilities of competing both in person and also virtually.
One thing that a lot of new lifters especially, they get either caught up, they get too high on like their squats or their attempts, or too low on it. If you were going for a big PR and you miss it on your third, and you felt like it was the same as you know, you got called for the depth, and you know, you got the red light, and now you're upset because the judge, you know, he doesn't like me. You start getting all these crazy scenarios in your head. And I've seen one of our lifters, you know, he started off very, very good, and just went to shit because he felt like he got the squat, and you know, now he was upset the rest of the day when he needed to realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you just got to play with the, you know, the cards that are dealt.
Yeah, I think you got to take things one month at a time.
You know, they just didn't like my squat.
Yep.
For some reason, they didn't like it, so we had to, you know, roll with it.
Yeah, you got to have short-term memory sometimes. You know, at the end of the day, I think another good piece to your point, it's about your total, and it's about how you finish in terms of your placing, like especially at a national meet. So don't get too romantic about a certain number. It's about what you do over the course of the whole day. So I think that's super important, you know.
Yeah, don't get too high on it either. You could have a massive PR, and then now all of a sudden you're in deadlifts and you can't even pick up, you know, what you're taking for 8 reps at the gym because you're just so spent emotionally. Your hormones racing. That shit'll spend you. You'll get spent real quick.
Good stuff. Ooh. What's on the menu for you guys today? Anything good? Any good food?
I haven't plotted my day out yet. I'm still I think I might honestly just have a pretty big lunch and dinner. I just kind of had a snack for breakfast. Got a lot to do today. We're building we're gonna go to Home Depot. I ordered all the lumber, but we're gonna build a bench. because I took the I don't know if I sent it to you. I took the rack thing that I did, and I put it into concrete buckets, and then the attachments for the flies that was on the original thing, it's like these little foam things. I put them in the concrete at a certain angle where you can put your foot up on it now and do Bulgarian split squats on them.
Nice.
Because I wasn't going to do flies on them. It was just a weird attachment. So I found a way to use those. Just seemed like a shame to throw them out. But now the tool bench I was using, the bench, the lowest setting is too high, which is fine because the bench like digs into your shoulders pretty bad anyway. So I found some blueprints online, and we're just going to build our own bench.
Cool. Yeah, so also I watched another video of so the angle that they got from looks pretty good to me. I thought it was like looked a little high from the zoom angle, but this angle looks like it was a really good spot. I don't know if you guys could see. I guess I could show you guys on the video here. But that's all. I think that's cool. I think it's a really good time to get creative. Let's see if I can pause it. I don't know if it's going to be able to, yeah, it's not going to be able to see that well. We'll post it on Instagram at some point, but it's a pretty good angle. And Ricky's got some massive legs too. I'm happy with that, but I agree. I think sometimes you got to know when to shut it down. I know he wanted a little bit more. I think 825 was the right number. Jose, maybe you could, I think, well, both of you guys could talk about this. When you're letting a coach pick your numbers and maybe you want a little bit more, maybe talk about that a little bit and, maybe trusting the process and kind of understanding, like taking your emotions out of it. Like when your coach is picking your attempts, like what does that, maybe just talk about that process for a little bit. I think that's important for people to hear.
You want to go first, Mel?
I know you can go first if you want.
There's been times where I want to kill John. I feel like I feel like I've had so much more going up to the bar, and then the second you pick up the bar, you're like, holy shit, if a fly falls on this bar, I'm not gonna be able to lift it. So he knows what attempts you should take, and when sometimes you think that your last squat felt good and all of that, and I hate to say, you're just lying to yourself. You start thinking about your total your gym PRs and all of that, and it's just a lot different on the platform. And I've learned that now with John for quite a few years. I just let him do what he has to do, and the last pretty much I think 5 or 6 meets now I've had a PR total. And
it's not to say that I don't have a perfect batting average, but I try to put our lifters in the best situation to win, and there's a trust factor there. I try to give you guys like what I think is there that day, and sometimes it may not be what you want, but just realize that if you have a good coach, you have a good relationship with your coach, you should have that trust. So I don't know, Mel, why don't you kind of bounce off maybe your perspective on it, and maybe kind of talk about just why it's important to kind of have someone else kind of pick your numbers and kind of take your emotions out of it.
Yeah, I think especially going off of what Jose said, you might feel a certain way, but what is actually the top potential of your body that day? Like, great, you PR'd in the gym. We're not basing it off that. We're basing how are your warm-ups moving? How do you look? And I think sometimes we get so emotionally attached. Well, I hit this in the gym, so I should be able to do it in a meet. And it's like, well, that's not really valid. You have to go objectively off of what's presented to you that day. So you kind of need someone there to see, all right, well, yeah, you're a 700-pound squatter, but, 3 plates is moving like shit. We're really going to have to be conservative with your opener. You're just not having a good day, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to bomb out, but there's no point in being stubborn and trying to make numbers work that are not going to work for you that day. I think at the end of the day, your goal is to go in there and perform to the best of your ability for that particular day. Whether PRs happen for a particular lift or a total, fantastic. But you also have to be realistic, and sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's okay. It happens.
Yeah, and to your point, I think like everyone I know, you kind of mentioned using 3 plates as an example. I think everyone has like a number where like you kind of know if you're going to have a good day or not. So that might be like 495 on a deadlift or like, whatever the case. I don't know if you guys have like, I know I have specific numbers where I kind of know like if like 5 plates moves like a certain way, I kind of know I kind of know I'm going to have a good day or not. So you kind of start to pick up on these indications on these certain things, like how certain weights feel. And usually at that point you kind of know if it's kind of there or not. I know like when I get in my squat suit, I know if 700 feels like really, really comfortable, then I know it's usually going to be a good day. So everyone's kind of different with that. So just kind of be aware of that stuff. And usually just realize, your coach is going to, and Jose, you see what he's got there? He's got the Sour Patch Kids.
There it is.
So there you go, right there. That's the secret to an 800-pound squat. Sour Patch Kids. So quick carbs for Ricky right now. I'm kind of having to move him. I also want him to be in shape. So I'm warming up. Having him go through a little bit quicker than I normally would, just because I want him to be in shape as well, and I want him to be prepared for any situation.
Hey, John, is this okay? The setup wise, can you see all right?
Looks great.
Okay, perfect.
And then, ideally, I know it may not – I'd like him to be, because I do have another call at 12. So I just want to hopefully get his warm-up, his opener around like 10:15 is the goal. But, yeah, the setup looks great. So I think that's kind of good. I don't know if there's like if you guys have certain numbers or kind of advice for, like, is there like a number where you kind of know if like 405 moves a certain way, like, you're going to have a good day? Is there anything that you guys can, recall with yourself that you kind of know if it's there or not, just personally for yourself?
I think for me, if I'm deadlifting, like usually around the 340, 350 range is when I know like, oh, that's not moving fast. Today's gonna be a rough day. But I've had days, especially towards the end of like a cycle, where like 3 plates is moving like garbage, and I'm like, wow, yeah, I need to taper. Like my body is shot. Like for me, 3 plates is the ultimate cutoff where I know it's like, okay, your body's absolutely broken. But usually 340, 350 is like the normal. Like if that moves pretty well, then I know I'm gonna have like a pretty decent session.
Yeah, I think usually and it's going to be probably somewhere like the 80% ish range is you'll kind of start to kind of figure out. Jose, anything that is there like a weight or range that you like to, kind of feel out when, like on the squat or the deadlift where, you got
deadlift is always, I never really know what's going to happen with deadlifts. I always feel like I'm going to die, and then I end up with a 40-pound PR on the platform. So Squats is believe it or not, it's more of my belt, how my belt feels. I generally do a big weight cut, so my belly usually gets really flat, and if I can get my belly back to where it was, at the day of meet, then I'll have a good day with squats. But it's usually around 500, 515. I'll know if something's there.
And for reference, guys, I know Jose is like 600 pound squat or 600 pound deadlifter, so kind of falls in line, or like I said, around that like kind of 80-ish% range is usually kind of where people start to kind of know. Good stuff. In other news, we will have an assault bike coming. We got the leg press in there. Got some fun stuff coming to Gaglione Strength. I'm excited.
I got cold feet on the monolift. I didn't go get it.
Who is it? Who's? Well, you can tell me off air. It's fine.
It's in Virginia.
Oh, it's in Virginia. Okay.
Bogues and me were gonna drive to Virginia to go pick it up.
That's amazing.
We were gonna both drive down there.
What's the price?
We got it down to $1,000.
That's pretty good.
But it's custom made. It's not like it's not like a Texas Strength or an Elite or anything like that. The guy had a guy build it. It's pretty intense. I'll send it to you. And it's low, so it's not tall, so it'll fit in my garage.
That's great.
But I got cold feet. I got too much stuff going on to spend a grand plus a truck. We're gonna drive down there, rent a truck in Virginia, go to the guy's house, load, and then drop off the truck here.
Yeah, it would have been an ordeal, but that is a good price.
Yeah.
I paid I want to say I paid like maybe $1,000 or maybe even less for that red West Side monolith. It's amazing. I mean, that thing is like a tank.
Yeah. I think depending on where this goes, I might get one later.
Yeah, I mean, setup's pretty good, but yeah, I think like having a way that you and Gina can squat from the same height long term.
I'm actually thinking about making a movable platform, so when we could actually I'll squat, then you just move the platform in the way onto it, and we'll stay in the same spot.
Nice.
It'll be the same height,
I got you.
We'll see. I still want a monolith though, just to say I have one. It's one of those things where you just want to get it.
I never thought I'd be walking out all my squats every week. It's a sad.
It's terrible.
I'm eating my words.
It's terrible.
Craziness. So Ricky's gonna start warming up on the bench press.
All right, John, I'm gonna have to cut out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Jose. Good commentary, and if you want to pop on, later, that's fine. We'll probably be here until like 11:30 or so. But I appreciate your time, and if nothing else, we'll see you tomorrow morning for a squat.
Good luck, brother.
I might have to take my first bathroom break. That's what I get for drinking enough water. So right now, Ricky's using a massage gun. There's I have a lot of, I think with all this recovery stuff, I think a lot of it is more mental than anything else and more psychological. So a lot of the stuff, if it makes you feel good, I think that's great. I don't know if you have any, things that you like to do, Mel, or anything, because I know like with a lot of the research and stuff, a lot of it is really not clear, or there's really not much of a true, you're not breaking up fascia, you're not doing this stuff. So I don't know if Mel, if you want to maybe talk about that a little bit, or talk about because I know you see some people like with a foam roller or a lacrosse ball, like what does that actually do?
Yeah.
What's kind of your take on some of that stuff?
I look at it as you should be doing the day of the meet what you would normally do in the middle of an intense workout. One thing that I try to avoid is trying to do anything that's going to alter my range of motion or my movement patterns. Like, yeah, you want to make sure that you're hitting depth and you're able to get down to the bar or get a good arch. But if you're going into the meet and you are still struggling to get that, you're not going to magically obtain it the day of the meet. You either have it or you don't. And it's either going to come to you during your warm-up, and maybe that's how you get, your ability to get that range of motion. But if you're in between attempts, scrambling to try to, unlock your hip so you can hit depth, that was a problem that really should have been addressed prior to the meet. I don't like doing any kind of myofascial release, just really from the biology of it. You're kind of telling your muscles to relax, which for me is pretty counterintuitive. The only things I really like to do at that point is more active work. So, maybe I do need to loosen up my hips. I'll do something more active like shin boxes. But just sitting there statically hanging off my connective tissue seems like a bad way to go into anything. Just because now is not the time to have a new range of motion. You have what you have, work with that. Don't try to get super crazy with it.
Yeah, and I think you should be, especially in a contest situation, you should feel pretty fresh from tapering and deloading and things like that. And my kind of thing is, with a lot of like the massage stuff, whatever. You might even see like if you guys have ever watched any videos of me like working, coaching or handling Larry Williams at a meet. Sometimes I might be like, you know, kind of stretching his hip or whatever. That if that mentally makes him feel good, then I'm going to kind of do it. So some of the stuff is psychological, and I would say some of this stuff is kind of either psychological or neurological in the sense that if it kind of makes you feel more comfortable, if it allows you to kind of get in a better position, then, you know, go for it. So, but yeah, I think don't do anything crazy. A lot of times you're going to have the range of motion you need. Your body's going to be kind of ready. And especially after squatting, you should be pretty warm at that point. So you shouldn't need too much. You know, if you need to do like 45 minutes of like foam rolling and mobility at a meet, I think, you know, that you're just kind of cutting into your resources that could be better used for actually competing. So good stuff there. All right, so got 225 on the bar. So Ricky sets up his feet first and then sets his upper back. I know myself and I think Mel, like we usually tend to set our back first and then our feet, but whatever your process is, you want to keep that the same. And Ricky also benches on more of the balls of his feet. Good.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's like, you know, if you're squatting 800, your low back might be tight. It's like, who would have thought, you know? You know, just be ready for things like that. It's going to happen. I think similar thing happened to like Larry at the Arnold's after squat at 870. He's like, yeah, my lower back's kind of fatigued. I'm like, yeah, squat at 870. So totally normal. When you're pushing the human's body's limits, like you're not going to like, you know, come out completely unscathed and completely without any kind of, you know, discomfort. But we want to be smart about it and try to mitigate as much risk as we can.
I mean, we know you can't take it from guys. Much faster than anything. You mess with them. Hey, listen, you put those 45-pound arms on
Got a nice Forza bench, which is that's a very popular competition bench from back in the day. You don't see them as common anymore, but the Forza bench was used for many, many years in a lot of the high-level competitions. A lot of the multiply powerlifters used those Forza benches in like the early 2000s. So you can see that Ricky is, you know, making sure that he's getting a full stop on his chest and fully controlled when he takes the weight out. A lot of people, kind of like with squat depth, like the pause length is going to vary depending on the judge, but what we're looking for is a stop on the bar. And you want to just, again, establish control. So if there's a lot of bobbling or movement in the bottom, typically your press command will be a little bit longer. So in most federations, you're going to have start command. The bar is at arm's length, and you show control of the bar. Your spotters, you need to have your hands off the bar at that point if you get a handoff. You get a press command once the bar is motionless on your chest, and then a rack command once your elbows are locked out. In certain federations, like the USAPL, for example, you need to have your feet flat, and you will not get a start command.
Hey, you didn't see the stage. I'm saying it was just 6. Okay. Did you and him share a honey bun on the way too? What's your first? This 455, 505. 545, 565. Yep.
So Ricky's going to do 2 more warm-ups, one at 405, one at 455.
Who's in the first 505, 545, 565. Yeah. Easy money. Quinn over there with the upside down that Mike Kimball.
Wrist wraps are going to be a more valuable tool when you're benching. Because you are, supported over that
I
joint.
got 2 sides on, so my lucky sides.
We typically like to wrap the wrist slightly above and slightly below the joint.
Money, image. My lucky sides. Are you trying to fucking wear work? Huh? Work clothes. Yeah, I got pants on. You can't see them unless I sit down.
His pants come up to here.
Well, I mean, you want to just go think of the shit, why don't you buy more? I just want Walmart dress pants. God.
You can kind of already see, upper squats, Ricky's changed quite a bit. A lot of times, all the pressure comes off after that initial.
That's all I wear. Yeah. So Ben Hogan on golf pants, it's dress.
All right, let's start to get some commands here.
Yeah, they said you did it. Yeah,
Okay, water bottle. H2O. Then 2 noon. Oh, and then colors, please. It's right there. Thanks. I'm good.
Press. Right.
Good. So this is an LMT powder that I was talking about before. It's just,
You call that press?
Oh, it'll be too long.
Yeah, my part did the whole rotation. My part. Flat.
Hey, did all rotate. Everybody else thought I called it. I thought
Mel, any tips for the ladies that maybe might be watching this as far as helping with their bench?
For like helpers?
Just like, sometimes women struggle to get their bench up, or just, struggle with what are some things that have helped you personally?
Definitely frequency. Especially, I think women can, if you're lifting lighter weights, you can definitely stand to train more often and recover better. But adding bench day makes a super big difference. As well as take your accessories seriously. Yeah, it's important. But realistically, shoulders, if your upper back is weak and you can't maintain a locked position, isolation is important as well. Even though powerlifters don't like to always train that way. I know compound movements are kind of all the rage right now. No one wants to really train like a bodybuilder. But sometimes you have to look at that weak point in the chain and just hammer that in and fix that weak point.
Well said. The other thing, just to kind of piggyback off what you said about the isolation stuff and the bodybuilding stuff, maybe not so much now, but for people in my like era and older lifters, a lot of times we had some sort of bodybuilding style training, higher rep training, or train for athletics before transitioning to powerlifting. So unless like if you see a lot of the best high level female powerlifters were like former gymnasts, former athletes who have some sort of foundation already, and they have some muscle mass already. So I think a lot of times women will get into powerlifting and they've never done like any type of like upper body hypertrophy work. Maybe they played soccer or more kind of, they did some stuff for their lower body. They did some running, but they don't actually have that hypertrophy base built up in their upper body. So doing some hypertrophy work for the upper body and just spending a little bit more time working the upper body, especially if you don't have as much general fitness in terms of upper body, that's going to be really important. So be patient with it. All right, Ricky, let's take this one, and then at like 10:30 we'll take 5:05. Okay.
Okay. What time?
10:25.
10:25. All right, let's get this shit going. Let's not put the weights on you. Yeah. I'm telling you, hey, I'm a little behind. This is what we know you like with your strap on the train. Shut up.
God knows he does.
Well, every rap room, every belt back on. Full sleeves up. I'm waiting as long as I put these wrist wraps on. You worked out. I mean, at least I actually worked out.
Oh, Lord. Y'all about to take it to the octagon.
You're like, he'll out drinking at the bar. Boy, right here, been practicing. Give him a beer.
He said,
The man with the boots on.
I hold this chaw in longer.
All right, so last warm up for Ricky. It's 4:55 on the bar. So Ricky's getting a good setup. As you can see, it's very consistent with his setup. Sets his feet first and then his upper back. Pulling his sternum to the ceiling, grabbing the shoulder blades down into the bench. Getting a handoff, pulling the bar out.
Start. Press. Right.
Control. Looks good, brother. So we'll throw 5 plates and a 5.
Right.
You take a 5.
The bench opener is another thing you want to kind of like nail. In general, your bench attempts, the amount of weight in between attempts is going to be a little bit smaller in general, just because the percentage is going to dictate that. So in Ricky's case, he's a 500-pound bencher, so even taking 50-pound jumps versus 90-pound jumps is it's like a similar percentage increase. So that's going to be important to note. So we're going to be taking much smaller jumps than in the squat. I know, Mel, especially with like some of the women, even like sometimes maybe talk about like even taking 5 or 10 pound jumps may seem like silly, but maybe talk about that a little bit, like when you're kind of training for the bench.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think, especially in certain cases, having plates of the really smaller denominations, like the 2.5s, the 1s, it seems kind of silly. Where it's like, is a extra 2.5 on each side going to make a difference? But if you don't have, a huge bench, if you're basing, a 10% jump off 100 pounds, yeah, you're going to have to get very specific with your weights. You don't have a lot of wiggle room to round up. And if you just keep rounding up for the sake of convenience or for the sake of just not wanting to round up, that makes no sense. We would never have, a big dude round up and be like, it's fine. Instead of, a quarter on each side, just put a plate on each side.
Yeah.
Like, no one would do that. So don't think that your, lower weight and lower percentages is licensed to kind of disrespect the process. There's a process. Your numbers look different than everyone else's. That's okay. But like respect your own body and your own process. You're not trying to, you might feel silly, kind of get that out of your head where you're doing what you need to do to get better. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, so I think fractional plates, you can get Micro Games is a good, Rogue has them. Micro Games is a good resource for fractional plates. Take whatever PR you can get and take whatever jump you can get. But as long as you're kind of slowly adding stress over time, especially if you're a woman starting out, and, if your bench is like your bench max is under 135, taking a 1 or 2 pound increase in like a rep max is a good way to kind of. All right, got 505 on the bar. Ricky Attempts.
All right, I'm gonna try to get as big of an arch as possible. Take it on my chest, put it in my lats.
Come on. 505 on the bar. First attempt.
Yep.
Right. Press. Right.
Good smooth press for Ricky Wright, 505. So take the 5s off and then put a quarter on. And then we'll take that attempt at 1040.
8 minutes. 8 minutes.
Yeah, I'm
So we'll take a 40-pound jump here and then try a smaller jump depending on how that goes.
I ain't trying to show my goodies now.
You can show a little Richard. Show the little Richard off.
It ain't small. It's big. Get it right.
That's right.
Sucks being a grower.
Yeah, nothing about that. You still wait for it to go. That must be what it is.
What?
Ricky, you can see he was
You can
wearing
get some of
a
the water out of
belt, which I don't particularly use unless I'm benching in a shirt to hold my bench shirt down, but some people prefer to wear a belt. That is an option.
Yeah, because I have water too. If he runs out, but I think it'll be fine.
I may need to get some Sour Patch Kids myself.
I hear that. Me and Ricky have our own Sour Patch Kids. We don't share. I like the trolley ones. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
my God.
I could do those all day.
If you go to Kroger, they're on sale.
We don't have Kroger by us, but that's like
Oh no, Kroger is the best.
it is good. That's usually where we do our shopping when we go to Ohio.
Oh yeah, Kroger is the move, and they get cheap gas. It's supposed to warm up a little bit today. No, we're leaving for Georgia in the morning. Today? Last night was cold as shit. I know it.
When you look at like Thursday, Friday, Saturday next week, golly, it's all 80s.
Yeah.
80, 82, 82, 80. Next week, you can get it live. Like, that's perfect.
Chicken. Was dry. Yeah.
Hold up. He's done.
Does he let you eat turkey or you just eat chicken right now?
I now got 2 chicken meals.
9, 10. Damn, doing all that? That's too much prep for me. Like, I stick to 2 proteins. That's it.
I would, but I was trying to usually we didn't fish until closer in.
Okay, I feel like yours, what, how many?
Right now, Ricky's got over a 1,300 sub total, so not a bad start for him.
Good, Bubba? You need anything? Good?
It's a tight.
Sinus pressure? The sinuses? Just
Something like that, yeah.
Always a good idea to make sure the plates are snug. Yeah, Ricky, if you feel good and you're ready, it's no rush. If you want to take another minute, that's fine. But if you feel good and you want to nail this one, that's fine too.
Yes, sir.
Good setup here.
I tried to wear the belt on that last one, and I think where it's tight, it locked my right lat up. So I'm gonna go no belt this time.
I don't think you need it. We were just talking about that. I think your setup looks good. If you want to just go without it, or if you want to just not clamp, you could also not clamp it if you want something to push into. But
yes, sir.
It's up to you. Yeah, so to like Ricky's, I think sometimes arch a little bit. Something to consider if you're playing with using a belt on bench or not. Usually for equipped lifters, we'll wear a belt just to hold the shirt down. And we even sometimes we'll use a thinner belt. Some people call it a bench belt.
Sorry, he burnt up. He looks like that meathead off of Mr. Krabs.
Wait, I swear you keep looking at those damn redheads. That sounds like it. I swear.
I swear.
I swear to God. I swear to God, boy.
I always make fun of him because he says, oh God, yeah. All the time now. He always Ricky says, oh God, yeah. Yeah. He says that all the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh God, yes.
That's true.
Oh, God.
That's true. He does say that.
Woo! Oh, man, let's get it together.
Oh, God.
We're being totally honest.
Oh, yeah.
Also left. Know it. Ah. Oh.
Oh, big.
Oh. This will go easy. You know what? Give me some of that chocolate. Right here.
All right, we got 545 on the bar.
There you go. You know what I'm saying, bro?
All right, so this is the second attempt for Ricky Wright. All right, get tight, chest up. Come on.
Start. Press.
Push.
Right.
Cool.
Let's go.
What you got, guy, going?
All right, Ricky, just have Ricky come over quick.
He said, come over here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna shut you down there. I think that's fine. I don't want you to risk like kind of tweaking a pec or anything. So let's shut you down there. I'm happy with that. There's really no sense in just for 20-pound jump. Let's save it for the deadlift. Let's get a little more food in you, and let's take let's see, 10. I'd like
Question for you.
I'd like you to get a little more, not too much. Get a little more food. If you want a little caffeine, that's fine. Let's take like 25 minutes. So like before 11:10, I'd like you to take your opening pull.
Okay.
But yeah, let's shut it down there. I'm happy with that. I don't want to can't. It kind of. I think that's good for today.
Yes, sir. Just a little input. I know 555 is there, but I don't.
Yeah, it's not worth the 10-pound jump. If anything, we'll pull a little bit more on the deadlift. So depending on how warm you are and how you feel, if you want to just like work up to like 605 or 585 or something like that, and just make bigger jumps on the deadlift, we can do that if you want to save your energy. But I just want to take your opener around somewhere like around 705.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to take if you want to save your energy and just take less jumps, we could just go 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4 plates, 5 plates, and then we could do 6 plates and like a 10, and then just do 605, and then that'll be good.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we'll just we'll do that. So we'll warm up to 605, and then we'll open at a 705 deadlift, and then we'll just kind of and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So I know, Mel, you've been in some situations like that where we hit an opener, we hit a second attempt, and then we shut you down. Can you maybe talk about, like, you don't have to take all 3 attempts. Can maybe talk about that a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've also been in the position where we've only taken the opener when I messed up my elbow pretty bad. I had a little tear in the old metal jack bench shirt, which was the first one I had. And that just really jolted my elbow pretty bad during the lift. We weren't even sure if I was going to be able to bench. So the fact that I was able to just get an opener in at that point, it was, that's what I needed for, I think that was a qualifying meet for the Arnold the first time. And, when your goal is to just hit the qualifying total, that's not, your goal is just that, where whether you do that with 3 attempts or 1 attempt, you don't get extra brownie points for more attempts, especially when you're kind of flirting with an injury like that. So sometimes it's okay to just get in and get out and do the bare minimum, especially if you're just trying to hit a certain number.
Cool. Yeah, I think, I think it's smart. I think, especially like, and we said, like, like, especially for a bigger guy, like, you're better off making up 10 pounds on the deadlift than trying to add 10 pounds on your bench. So that's something to consider as well. So you got to think about, like, what's more realistic. So, like, for Ricky at this point, that was kind of a grind. So saving his energy is going to be, like, the best. And that's what I would, if this was a real meet, that's what I would have done. So I think that was a good call. And, I see that kind of mistake a lot of times from newer lifters. They grind out, like, their second attempt, and then they go up again, and then they kind of miss horribly. So not really worth the risk at that point.
No, Ryan. Excuse you.
So right now, Ricky's got a 1370 subtotal. It's fantastic. That's excellent. Ricky will go over 2,000 pounds on his opener attempt. I can't even go on Instagram without seeing Adele references. It's really driving me crazy. Off topic commentary of the day. Ow. Nice little setup they got there. So we got one lift left to go. So usually going into the deadlift, I like to really just smash the opener, kind of keep it light. Your second attempt should kind of put you in position to either hit a PR total or put you in good standing for a national level competition. And your third attempt should really just kind of be what you need to either increase your placing or increase your ranking, or if you're going for like a state, national, or all-time world record. But yeah, usually like that first attempt, I like to just kind of get you on the board. If it can give you like a qualifying total, it's great. But really just kind of like to get in the meat. There's even been times where like with Mel, sometimes I might even like lower the opener even more to make it more of a last warm up, and then just take what they need for a qualifying total on the second attempt, just to kind of save energy. But in general, on the third attempt deadlifts, we usually do not play that conservative at all, just because it's the last lift of the day. So usually kind of go for broke at that point. Whereas with the strategy with the squat and the deadlift, is obviously you want to kind of build momentum going into the deadlift. But the third attempt deadlift, there's no reason why you shouldn't really kind of push as much as possible, since it is the last lift of the day. So if anything does kind of go wrong, at least you're done for the day. So if you do want to push any one lift, I think your third deadlift is one lift where if you do like to kind of be aggressive, or if you do like to roll the dice and take your chances, that third attempt deadlift is a great opportunity to do so. I got 2 liters of water in me now, so that's good. Whew. Got 2 liters of water. I got 18 ounces of beef. Deadlift's the last lift of the day. Some people say the meat doesn't start until the bar hits the floor. Mel, maybe if you have any kind of commentary about kind of strategy going to the deadlift. I kind of mentioned like when you were qualifying for the Arnold, we actually lowered your opener and then kind of took what you needed on your second, and then we kind of maybe just talk about what your mindset is going into the deadlift and some things that we've kind of done in the past to make sure you're successful. Even at the XPCs this year, one of your competitors, I remember she bombed on the deadlift. So maybe some just kind of some strategies kind of going into your final.
Yeah. Like in my mind, if I made it to the deadlift and that's where I bombed out, I would just go lie in traffic. Like there's no reason. Like you should feel in your warm-ups, and that's something like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like if you were your coach, if you have a coach, even more like shame on that coach. Like don't be greedy. Because to put all that work in, get your opener, get a number on the board, and then go crazy. But you need to actually have a valid score to go crazy. If you decide you're going to do something your first attempt, so, you know, I don't know how many people actually realize this and actually read the rules going into a powerlifting meet, but you can't go down. You can stay the same or go up, but you can't, oh, you know, 3 plates didn't move, so I'll go down to 2 plates. Like, no, that's not an option. So, you know, if it feels like garbage the day of, there's absolutely nothing wrong with lowering your opener. No one cares about your opener. And I don't know what people's fascination is with having an impressive opener. I guarantee no one is paying attention to your opener at all. So get a number on the board and don't ruin your entire day because you want to be a stubborn jerk about it. And then especially if you're coaching someone, you know, maybe they don't want to hear it, but your job is to make sure that they don't bomb out. So don't feed into your lifter's ego. Do what you need to do and do what you know is best for your lifter. Because to put all that work in and then invalidate it with some bad calls, to me, is just unacceptable.
Yeah, I think, you really shouldn't struggle with your opener, especially with the deadlift. It's like, since it being so like lower back and grip intensive, if you do tear a callus, if you do tweak something in your back, you're kind of like done at that point. So just kind of get on the board at that point, and then, take what you need to on your second attempt to kind of be competitive or kind of hit your goal or whatever you want. And you could have some fun in your third, but just get on the board. I don't think your opener deadlift should be that taxing. And just because the deadlift typically there's only one command, it's just kind of like less things that can kind of go wrong. There's no kind of like walking the weight out or taking the weight out. It's just kind of on the floor. Not to say it's not technical, especially if you're pulling sumo, but I think the deadlift kind of just lends itself more towards this bigger jumps, just because it's a little bit of more of a simpler lift. It's usually a little bit heavier of a lift. So if you have to take a bigger jump from first to second, I don't think that's a big deal. And you should be plenty warm at that point. You shouldn't really need that much time to kind of warm up and kind of get ready. A lot of my more successful meets that I've had, I've opened really light in deadlift. Like my last competition when I competed in the 242 class, to kind of solidify my goal of squatting 800 pounds in 6 weight classes, I opened with a 550 pull, and I ended up with 650, which is my second best deadlift in competition like ever. And I just took these really big jumps. We warmed up. Part of the reason why I opened lighter is because we had to warm up on a stiff bar. I don't remember if I told you guys that story, but basically the meet director didn't have enough equipment. We warmed up on an Iron Wolf bench bar, which was really crazy. So I mean, my last warm up was like I guess with the Iron Wolf bench bar is 50 pounds. So I pulled 500 for my last warm up, 5 plates, and it felt awful. Then when I got onto the platform, I pulled 550, got the timing down with the deadlift bar. I ended up pulling a really solid 650, and it allowed me to hit a PR Wilks, and it allowed me to hit a really solid total. And I think I was out of a field of 50 lifters, 50 multiply lifters, I believe I was in the top 10 of a really competitive meet. So I was pretty happy with that. I believe I took 8th place overall at that meet, even with a bum shoulder. So that was pretty cool. And, that wouldn't have been possible if I had opened too heavy in the deadlift. I kind of built a lot of confidence for myself, and it worked out really well. I mentioned before, when you were on mute, that in your contest, when you qualified for the XPC this year, we took your last warm-up as your opener, so we went really light, and then we hit what you needed to hit. Your last warm-up, we lowered your opener because that's all you needed to qualify. So you qualified on your opener, and then we took like your kind of true opener on your second, and you ended up having a really good day. So there's nothing wrong with that. Understand like what the goal is of the day, understand your strategy. Are you going for a PR? Are you going for a qualifying total? Are you going for placing? So understanding what the intent of the day is, understanding what the goal is, understanding what's going to give you the best result for that day, and then you can kind of adjust your strategy accordingly. Usually like my numbers, I have a game plan kind of going into the meet for everybody, and then I kind of adjust as we go. And then once we kind of get to the deadlift, that's when I really start to look at people's subtotals, and that's where the strategy kind of comes into play. Because obviously you can kind of have an idea of what someone's going to squat or bench, but once you don't really know until you know. And so then once the subtotals are in, that's when like the true coaching and strategy kind of comes into play when you're at a national meet. So that's where you can start to do the number crunching. Some meets that kind of come to mind, like when Larry Wheels was going head to head against like Dennis Cornelius at the U.S. Open and things like that. We were jockeying for attempt selection at the U.S. Open, and Larry ends up coming on top, and he ends up winning an extra $5,000. Took third place overall.
Excuse me, do you want us to do the salt warm-ups at 11:10, right?
No, I wanted you he could start doing warm-ups now.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted him to take his opener like around 11:10, which might not be that's okay. So let's just plan for his opener at like 11:15.
Okay.
So take.
I'm gonna use the restroom, and then I'm gonna start.
Yeah, use the restroom. We'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plates, and then the last warm up will be 6 plates and a dime. It'll be good to go. Just couple with 135, and then just singles is good. Make sure the hands are good. Make sure that because I want to make sure his grip is solid. So chalk, baby powder, and just make sure the grip is intact for the whole time. So.
All right.
When you start pulling 800 pounds, and you got to start worrying about your grip and things like that, it gets a little scary.
Yeah. That's good for you. We're doing 2.5 hours.
And, like I said, we're moving Ricky pretty fast through this competition. Usually like regular powerlifting meet's kind of like a 9 to 5 kind of deal, but want to make sure he's in shape and ready to go.
This is God. This is like amazing.
So at this point, I might be, this is a true competition, I might be doing some number crunching and things like that. One of Ricky's goals for September is to hit 1,000 kilogram total, which is 2,200 pounds. It's a very elite. 2,000 pounds total is excellent. Don't get me wrong. That's a great milestone. But then as a heavyweight lifter, that next kind of big milestone for a lot of people is hitting 1,000 kilograms mark. So that would be about 2,200 pounds. So Ricky would need an 830 pull to achieve that. So it's going to be a tough deadlift for him, but we'll see how his second attempt moves. I think he's going to definitely go over 2,100 today. His opener is going to put him over 2,000. His second attempt will put him over 2,100, and then we'll kind of see how that moves from there. But that is the goal for September. So if he can hit that in the gym in this kind of mock meet situation under less than ideal circumstances, for reference, his meet was supposed to be in April. and then the meet got moved and then got moved again. So we're kind of taking advantage of, we're just doing the best we can, using this as a tune-up meet, and it's also allowing me to watch him, get him experience for me handling him, get him experience with how we would kind of, coach someone's attempts and kind of go through the actual competition process together. So definitely excited to see what he could do at the showdown meet. It's going to be a good showing. I'm excited. I believe that he's going to be going against some big, names like Dan Bell and John Hack and things like that. So it'll be a fun time. Some multiple all-time record holders. This is completely random, but I'm trying to figure out, there's this one girl that hip thrusts 700, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Just could someone, if anyone's watching this after the fact, could someone explain?
Question for you.
Yes.
So, John, question for you.
Yep, gotcha.
So the bar, dealt with this bar a lot. I usually start out with 100 plates on each side.
Okay.
Because once you get to that 800 mark, you start
if you
to lose
want
a little
to,
bit.
if you want to do, that's fine. So if you want to start off with hundreds, that makes actually the math easier. So you do 100 for the first warm up, and then you just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Because 4 plates per side will be 605, and that's what I want you to end with anyway. So that works out perfect.
Okay, perfect.
So throw 100 on there, and we'll just go 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, yes, sir. Yeah, let me.
You guys like that barbell math, huh? Not my first rodeo.
Yeah, I need a thing here or something. Get a better view on that.
I also heard using hundreds is cheating, so I don't know how.
What it looks like.
I don't know how the internet's going to react to that. All right, so 5 plates. We'll go 5 plates. 5 plates in a 5 will be 705. And then we'll go 6. 6 plates. Be 75. 75 plus 50. So we do 6 plates. 10, 10, 2.5 is 830. Who needs a loading chart? So maybe I'll go 715, 785. That's probably better. So we'll go 5 plates and a 10. Sometimes with bigger guys, we find this, I know this, a lot of people will think I'm an idiot when I'm doing attempts with Larry, but sometimes with the bigger guys, they're better off just taking these larger jumps just to save their energy. I find guys that are really explosive, really fast twitch. They, for lack of a better term, they kind of just burn out quicker. So you only have so many of those max effort kind of lifts in them. So in Larry's case, he's really more taking only 5 or 6 true attempts. And then a lot of times his openers are more last warm up. So that's another strategy to consider if you're a really strong guy or an equipped lifter. Brandon Lilly was someone that he always talks about going 6 for 6. And he would really only take 6 real attempts. So that's something to consider as a bigger guy too. You know, just because you have 9 attempts doesn't mean you have to use all 9 or you have to like go really heavy on all 9. That's, you know, you can take that into account when you're having meet strategy. This is maybe something to talk about for newer people, but I don't know if Mel, if you felt a difference when you use 100-pound plates, 45s, or calibrated plates, have you felt like much of a difference?
I can't say I have. I also have to look at like maybe if it was like an 900-pound pull, you know, having the 100-pound plates versus the 45s would make a massive difference. But I don't think I'm lifting enough weight to feel a difference. I think you would probably need much more substantial numbers. I don't feel anything.
Yeah, I agree. Even with myself, I don't feel much of a difference. I do feel some difference with, I think a deadlift bar definitely makes a difference. I think the brand of the deadlift bar could even make a difference. You know, going from a stiff bar to a deadlift bar, I never found much of a difference between using hundreds and using 45s. But when you start to go, if you have a lot of hundreds or a lot of like 25 kilo plates, it's definitely a little bit of a different feel off the floor. But I don't feel much of a difference until it gets to like 600 plus personally. So if you're like under like a, you know, 600 puller, I don't think, you know, there's really much to worry about. If you're like an 800 puller, so one of like, Andrew Ottaway comes to mind, you know, the more, I think the stronger and the more technical the lifter you are, it makes more of a difference. So like Andrew, for example, with straps, like he could pull like, you know, about 400 kilos, about 880 pounds with straps and with pounds plates. And I believe I don't think he's pulled 800 in a contest yet. I think his best was like 765 under our coaching, and he might have pulled a little bit more. But so he was, you know, that was like 100 pounds difference with straps and with pounds plates. So that's an extreme example, but he is a super technical lifter. So the stronger you are, the more technical the lifter you are, like in terms of like sumo and stuff like that. The guy Jamal comes to mind, you know, with straps and with some pounds plates. I think he's pulled 1,000. I think his best in competition more recently was like 970. It could definitely make a difference when you're at those upper weights. But if you're like under a 600 puller, I don't think it makes much of a difference. Oh, shit. So we got 235 on the bar. If you see, Ricky's has had some grip issues in the past. So he's warming up for straps. That's something that one of our old lifters that we used to work with, Sandy Tepper, was a really good 165 lifter. He used to have a similar issue. He had very small hands, but so anything that once he got to like the 600 range, he had a really hard time holding onto the weight. So, you know, that's something to consider. I will typically only use straps when I'm doing my like higher rep work or supplemental work, or if I'm doing bodybuilding work. But for some people, if your technique is really solid, this is a strategy that some people use, that they use straps in their warm-ups just to save their hands. I like to make sure I am kind of feeling the bar more, so I don't personally advocate for that. But if that's something that works for you, I've seen a lot of it. So it is a strategy. The other thing to consider is that when you go from, you know, especially as a sumo puller, you know, going from mixed grip to double overhand, the mechanics are a little bit different, and the length of the pull is going to be a little bit different. The length of the pull is a little shorter. Now, if you're a hook lifter, I think there's less of a consequence and there's less of a technique change when you're using straps. So if you're a hook lifter, I don't think it's as detrimental as far as the range of motion is going to be the same. But if you're a mixed grip lifter, it's definitely going to shorten the pull a little bit. You can see like Ricky has a pretty like low start. He likes to use his legs a lot. That's a kind of similar setup to like an Eric Bridge, things like that. That's something we like to advocate, is using a lot of quad power to help break the weights off the floor. Old school like Kirk Kowalski comes to mind. We want to make sure that we're not just using the back, but we're using the quads, the legs, the back, the hamstrings, all in unison. We don't want to just make this a stiff-legged pull. The more muscles we can get incorporated into the lift, the more success that we're going to have. If you notice that I like to, the squat and the deadlift, I talk a lot more because I enjoy those lifts a little bit more. It's like, it's just, we're benching now. It's like, whatever. But no, I like, you know, I like the squat and the deadlift more in terms of the challenge, in terms of the transferability to other sports. I think the bench press is great. I think out of all three lifts, I think the bench press is probably though the most unnatural in terms of like quote unquote like applying to real life. It's like rare that like you're ever going to be on your back kind of pushing away from something. But as far as picking things up and you know having strong legs, I think those are like really important. Being able to kind of get up out of a chair, get off the toilet, pick things up off the ground, carry things. So I think squatting and deadlifting is really something that every like athlete and every person should be doing in some capacity. It doesn't need to be with a barbell, but I do believe that those are like really kind of important movement patterns to just for everyday life. You're always going to need to get out of a chair. Hopefully, you're always going to need to get off the couch. You're always going to need to get off the toilet. Hopefully, without assistance, you're always going to need to probably pick things up off the ground, carry things, pick things up with your back and your legs. So I love. I think squatting and deadlifting are just amazing exercises. And again, it doesn't have to be with a barbell. That's why our kind of our brand and our podcast is called Powerlifting for the People. We do believe that powerlifting and getting strong is something that everyone can benefit from. Another thing you could tell it's that you're in a powerlifting gym. You know, you get a little. They got some markings. They got some tape on the deadlift bar. You definitely don't want to use the deadlift bar for squatting.
It's sacrilege.
I've seen it a few times. We used to train at a commercial gym in West Babylon, and seeing someone squat with the deadlift bar always would grind my gears.
Barbarians.
So you start seeing that thing whip, but it's like you can't. How do you like not feel that? Like you know, it's just like can't feel good, but some people just like don't understand. All right, so we got 425 on the bar for Ricky Wright.
Okay.
Chin plug, obviously.
Yeah, where's your chin plug?
This is a 1.5 times body weight deadlift. I don't know if you guys are familiar with some of my Fat Dan. Dan used to train at Super Training Gym, strong guy, but they always kind of poke fun of him being fat. But he actually, I think, squatted, I think, close to 800 in the meet with reps. So he got really strong, but they always kind of like, this is a 2 times body weight squat. But no, joking aside, Ricky's still warming up. You also see he's got the deadlift socks on to protect the shins, the shins. I have permanent scars on my shins from many years of straight bar deadlifts.
It's actually really funny, but I have both my shins are tattooed, and both times there's 2 separate tattoo artists. They were just really freaked out. They're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't feel anything." And they're used to people squirming and fidgeting, and I just didn't feel anything. And I just think the years of deadlifting conventional just like blunted the nerves because I just almost like fell asleep during one of the sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's to your point. Like, I know some. I'm not advocating for this. Just FYI, but I know like some old school like fighters, like the Muay Thai fighters, they would.
Oh yeah, they would literally kick stuff and
they would kick their shins on like a pole or a tree and just to kind of kill the nerves essentially. So there is some like truth to that. If you ever played football, the first couple of times like a helmet to the forearm, it hurts a lot, and it's crazy how your body adapts to things. The first time you have a straight bar on your back, and then your body kind of adapts to it. The human body is an unbelievable machine. it's pretty crazy how it can adapt to things like, you know, pain and stuff. And your body's just like, oh, you haven't died yet, so we're not going to send pain signals anymore. It's like, don't worry about it. It's like, but the first time it's like a shock. So it is kind of interesting. You do get used to it. All right, so we got 5:15 on the bar. So Ricky's got 2 warm-ups left. Like we mentioned before, this is usually about the time that I would kind of know like if the day is going to go well or not. Ricky looks very sharp right now. It's gonna be a matter of can he hold on to that 8:30 to reach his goal. I believe the strength is there, but will he be able to hold on to it? We shall see. Also, another unrelated topic of the day, I did see some pictures of Annie, Thor's daughter, and she really did have like abs while pregnant, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, where's the justice in that? Like,
That's just when you know that you're just like on another level. It's like when you have like when you're like in your last like trimester and like you still have like an outline of abs like with this giant belly. It's like unbelievable.
Garbage.
That's like my like that's. Well, I mean, if
I
I
was
was,
just gonna say, is that your goal to have abs while you're pregnant?
yeah, I don't know if that's possible, but who knows in this world.
It's 2020. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Although it's funny, like, I think in one of the videos I saw, she was doing like a Z press, which is essentially is like a seated overhead press with your legs out in front of you. It's kind of a provocative movement. You're not really supposed to like do spinally compressive exercises, I think, at that point, but just kind of again shows you like how the human body can adapt. And I'm not advocating that you do like spinally compressive exercises when you're that far along, but it is pretty amazing what some of these women could do in a situation like that. All right, 2 warm-ups left. Let's see if Ricky's lucky socks are going to pay off or not.
We're talking about your socks, babe. Talking about your socks.
One thing that I try to teach people, it's a little bit challenging, but when you're using straps, you want to try to keep your technique and your setup as similar as possible. So like if you normally don't like roll the bar, for example, if you normally, set your hands a certain way, set your grip with a certain way, a lot of people's tendency is to have the grip a little bit tighter when they use straps, so you want to try to keep the same width, the same stance, and the same technique as much as you can. You can do a great job of pulling the slack out, whereas the ball actually hit the floor a little bit there. Excellent job. Good. So, Ricky, I would after the next one, I'd probably take I'd get the straps off, get your single straps up, get a little baby powder.
Then after the next one, take the straps off.
Yeah, that's how I do.
So we're gonna go up to 4 plates, 5 to 100, so it's 605 on the bar. This is making me want to jump in.
Ooh, oh. No, I'm good. I can really walk.
My head,
I did the snatch grip yesterday with the plates are kind of small, so it's basically like deficit. My body's just good right now.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've been doing that this cycle. I'm not sure why, but
Yeah, my upper back is fried too. I'm at a point where like I'm just figuring the barbell and like I'd rather alter what I'm doing for one lift and have it for the other two out of three.
I think you'll be probably
Hurt all the time.
that you're not kind of like
hard to have sex.
being unstable with the kettlebell at this point anyway. So
every 45 seconds.
I think that's
You
fine.
gotta eat every 45 minutes.
The reason I've been using those snatch grip deadlifts for me personally is that I'm really trying to like kind of get my like back higher. And that's kind of forcing me to have my lats kind of flared. That's been something that's been challenging for me transitioning to some of the bodybuilding stuff is just to be kind of strong in that kind of like, you know, that scapular position. Because a lot of times as powerlifters, we're really kind of tucked in that way. So that's been really beneficial for me. And I think for people that really have their back engaged, doing some even like in your walk, like it's not a bad idea to kind of get a feel for like, it really forces you to kind of lock in. And you really can't. It's really hard to kind of create that. And it will also teach you to sit squat down a little bit more and use your legs to pull. So I think it's a good exercise to it's not something I would do like really heavy probably because I think it'd be really hard to maintain position with a heavy weight if you're doing a hypertrophy cycle. It's definitely a great movement for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking progressing to at least until the gym is open again. Maybe modifying and kind of keeping everything more in a hypertrophy range.
Yeah.
I'm just like I've ran out of weight.
Yeah, I think if you're doing like 8 to 10 with that, that'd be challenging.
Excuse me, while I lean your ass down, I can take a back seat.
It takes 45 minutes.
So let's take that next one now, and then we'll give you 5 minutes for the opener.
Go to bed.
Can't do the big guy. I got big legs too, so it's just leg.
Whoa.
All right, 605 on the bar. This is the last warm up for Ricky Wright.
Oh no, he comes. He comes.
We got to train today. You already trained. You already trained. Train after me. Oh. Yeah.
605 on the bar. Last warm up. Good job pulling the slack out and down. Good. So what I want you guys to do, we're going to put another plate on, a plate and a 10. And then we're going to give you 5 minutes to rest. So we'll go 7:15 for the opener. So another 45 and a 10. Let's get baby powder on the upper thighs and chalk also on the insides between the index finger and the thumb.
My iPad. Do you have an iPhone charger with you? iPhone charger? My iPad's about to die.
Hey Siri, what is the temperature? Well, it gained 5 degrees, Mel. So that's,
wow.
You're in luck.
Yeah, it's and the heat is busted at Ryan's house. Their oil burner messed up, and I only packed shorts for pajamas, so I'm just walking around trying to get warm.
Yeah, I'm actually wearing pants today, which is rare. So
that's weird. We found out last night because I went to shower and the water wasn't getting warm and I had to take a cold shower. I have to be in a specific mood to take a cold shower. Last night I was not in the mood. It's not a good time.
I could do like a cold tub, but a cold shower, it's just, I don't know, something about like the running water. I'm just not into it. All right, so we're gonna get started in 1 minute. Let's make sure the plates are tight to the. So anyone that's spotting and loading, let's make sure the plates are tight to the bar. There should be a down. There should be someone giving him a down command once he's fully erect. Your hands cannot leave the bar until the weights are on the floor.
Okay. Are you doing command?
Yeah, what command you need?
What was it again, John? I'm sorry.
Just make sure he's not dropping the bar. That's all.
Okay. What was the commands that we need to call again?
There's a down. It'll be a down command once he's standing tall.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes if I get tired, I'll just short arm it.
I just had to get rid of my own shit. Oh, we haven't been there.
Yeah, sure. Think so.
Yeah. I bet it's like everybody get it, but
Eggs. No, it's okay. I have to. My webinar is at 12, and I'm not time to cook.
Go. Yeah, a little bit. Do commands now. All right. Yeah, I chopped it up.
All right, so straps up.
I'm watching your app.
Whoa.
Big old gorilla.
Still waiting for our Johnson & Johnson sponsorship to go through.
Nothing. Very proud of. And John, just a heads up, the iPad is at like 8%. If it does die, we'll finish the call on his call.
Okay.
But it should make it through, but just a heads up.
Yeah, and if you got to like plug it in between like attempts or something.
Yeah, nobody has a freaking charger, of course.
Ah.
We got everything else. We got the Sour Patch Kids, but we forgot the charger.
That's the most important thing.
I know. It's all about priority.
Hey, I got Zoom on my phone if we need to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's smash this and we'll go from there.
All right.
It should make it. It's got 8%.
This should be easy. Pumpkin squeezy. I'll just give you a towel. Huh? I'll just give you a towel. All right.
He said, make sure your hands don't leave the bar.
What?
Make sure your hands don't leave the bar wet.
Just put it down correctly.
He said, put it down correctly. You should know what that means. I don't know what that means, but you should.
You don't want the internet judging.
You get your hair cut.
All right, it's 7:15 opener.
So you gotta keep that ass inside of here. Let's put it on doctor's phone. Up to me, I know that 102 didn't come to no van for it. That's not a C-section.
No chlamydia.
Yeah, came from something else.
All right, grip, blast it up. Come on. Come on. Tight. Get it. Good. Let's get some baby powder on your hands.
More chalk on your hands.
Yeah.
Okay. How did it feel on your grip?
Good, good.
Okay. Are you okay making a jump here?
Yeah.
Let's go 6 plates with the hundreds. That'll be 785.
Cool.
And then we'll take that at 11:45.
Hey, chalk the bar.
So about 10 minutes.
Let's go ahead and swap him over.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and swap you over to the phone.
Sounds good. So right now, Ricky's at 715. 2085 total.
Should be there. There you go.
Oh, look there. All right, now how do I?
Cool. So I can see you. I can see you, Ricky.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Perfect. Okay, cool. He said it's good.
Yeah, because I can see all the weights too and everything. That's perfect.
Awesome.
See if you go up there. So,
So this second, if you can be successful in the second attempt, it'll give him a 21.5 total, which is world class.
Yeah, I don't want him.
We'll see how this goes. Be right back. Just taking my first time out.
Are they tight on each side? Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Mel, can you virtually put baby powder on Ricky, please?
Hold on, let me grab some.
What you say, extra bar? If you want to, go ask them on the desk. Yeah. If they got an extra bar. It's a white square bar.
What's his name? You want to speak?
Yeah,
That one, let's pull him first. I didn't got it.
Let's just make sure Ricky's got some baby powder on the upper thigh. He's got to really make sure his grip is set. Make sure he's got plenty of chalk.
We asked him to disconnect the Bluetooth.
Easy.
He's got fair row and playing with the back. He's real quiet. Yeah. Came out of Lucas all the time. I mean, he's very friendly. Like he's called he's
Guys, there was a little interview last night on interviewing the state. My name got brought up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A lot of plates on that bar. All right. Ricky.
Yes, sir.
I need you to smash this.
Okay.
Earn the third attempt. I know what number you want. You got to show me. You got to earn it, okay? You got to smash this clean lockdown. Stand up tall. Fire those hips through hard, okay? Leave no doubt, okay? Let's do it right. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Let's start. Let's take 2 more minutes. Get baby powder, get chalk. Start getting your head right. Come on. Let's go.
No. You see where you're at?
Let's go. Come on.
Where you want to come?
Downstairs. I'm getting one outside.
What?
Hold on, just get a deadlift.
Get it. Tight grip. Come on.
Go, baby.
Come on. Tight. Drive it. Hips through. Hold it. Down.
Nice.
Good job, baby.
Okay. Good, brother. What's your meet PR total?
My meet PR?
Yeah.
2105. That's 2155.
It's amazing. Okay, so here's the thing. So I don't think 830 is there today.
Oh,
If you want to take what's your is your deadlift PR 805 or 810?
My deadlift max. I never really messed with a deadlift max, but the biggest I've ever did was 800.
Okay. Cool. All right. Let's see. How do you feel?
I feel good. I feel good.
You feel okay for one more?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's take a small jump. So 30-pound jumps, 815. Let's. You feel good for that?
Give me a second. 815.
So you need 10 and a 5 on there.
It's a 30-pound jump.
If you want to take it, or we could shut it down now. I'm happy with what you did today. It's up. If you want to take another one, that's as heavy as I would go, or you could shut it down. I'm okay with either. It's up to you.
Wait 1 second. I'm checking.
815 was the which I think.
810 or 815. Let me do 810.
That's fine. As long as you feel good, I'm okay. Also, if you want to shut it down, we could just shut. I'm very happy with what you did. So as long as if you feel like amazing and you want to take a small jump, that's up to you. I'm very happy with what you did today.
I want to take a small jump.
So we need a 10 and a chip. 10 and a chip.
A 10 and a 2.5. And tight. Make it tight.
Here's 2.5 right here.
Yeah. No, you put a pants on.
Let's you got to get more baby powder on the upper thighs too if you have some, okay? That'll help with the lockout.
Get what?
Do you have baby powder?
More powder on.
I don't have any baby powder on me. Nope.
Okay, no big deal. We definitely need baby powder for when you compete, in person. But that'll help that last inch of lockout. You got to be patient. It might take a couple of seconds for you to lock it out, but you could do it. Okay, just stay with it.
Yes, sir. Get it real tight. Nail box.
We're gonna we'll take the last attempt at 11:55.
Yes, sir. Scoot it over a little bit that way, and then get them real tight. There you go. That's better. And just get it real tight. You got a bunch on both sides.
Thanks, babe.
Push it hard. Push it hard.
Ricky, let them do it. Save your energy.
He said, "Save your energy, honey."
Let them do it.
Boy's hard-headed. Baby, he said, "Save your energy." He said, "Save your energy."
Yes, let them do it. They got it. So Mel, this is going to be Ricky's final attempt. If you have any, I don't know, what's when you're going into your last lift of the day, like what's your strategy? What's going through your head? Like what are you thinking about?
just make sure that you kept up on hydration, do whatever you got to do. If you need a little bit more fuel in you, at this point it's a little too late for caffeine depending on how fast the weight's moving, but if you're someone who likes a little kick at the end, now's the time to pull the ammonia out. But this is like the last hurrah, so whatever you got to do, you know, previous lifts you kind of have to pace yourself, but whatever you got left in the tank, whatever you need to do to bring that out, do it.
In the deadlift specifically, like when it feels like it's like not moving, like really slow off the floor, or if it feels like you're kind of at a sticking point, like what's kind of going through your head, and like what are you focused on to kind of keep that weight from stopping completely?
Literally just don't stop pulling. Don't stop. I honestly think that deadlifts are one of the lifts that it's really just a test of how bad do you want it. Because I've had lifts where it's going, you know, and when you look at the video, it's like 8 seconds or something, and it feels like an eternity when you're doing it. But it's really just don't panic. You're gonna hit a sticking point. That's okay. It might not feel like it's moving, but literally just keep going. Just keep going, and don't forget about form. You know, that doesn't mean turn your back into a C just because it's heavy. Make sure you're still keeping that position, because the moment you lose that position, it's going to make your life a lot harder. But keep going and just anticipate the fact that you're going to have to operate in a very high level of discomfort, and ignore it. Keep moving.
Yeah, like my kind of mindset is like I'm not going to stop pushing until I hear that down. So like I'm really like tunnel visioned at that point. You know, it doesn't even if it feels like it's not going anywhere. Oftentimes, like the weight's actually moving faster than it feels. So just don't stop pushing. If you start to second guess yourself when you say like, oh, when you stop actually like physically pushing, that's when you're kind of dead in the water. So once you kind of commit to the pull until you hear that down. That is critical. And let the judge make a call. If you don't quite lock it out or whatever, let the judge make a call. And, you know, sometimes you get a lift, sometimes you don't, but let the judge make the call if it was locked out or not, and just don't stop until you hear the down command, and let the referees make the decision. That's really important too, because I think sometimes like a newer lifter might just want to put it down because I didn't quite lock it out, or let the judge make the call. You know, I think that's really important. Not to say you want to get away with the lift, but that's part of being a good athlete, is just kind of doing everything in your power to put yourself in the best situation to win and be successful. Let the judges judge, and as a lifter, your job is just to complete that lift to the best of your ability.
I used to pray for times like this, to run like this, so I had to run like that, shine like this, and now time I spent to lock that shit in the back of the paddy wagon, comes out their wrist. See my dreams unfold, nightmares come true. It was time to marry the game, and I said, yeah, I do. If you want it, you gotta see it, but yeah, I do. But sure, she trying to bless me like I said I do. Like the next sleep, you can please for the truth to sneeze and get a crank. Never let them hold you in between the side. No,
I wish it was a real meat. He would have hit a 50-pound PR. Technique is much better and everything. So you can start getting ready whenever he's good. Whenever he's ready to kind of start getting set up. Oh, no, yeah, it's going to be cutting off. Last stuff. Only thing I'm worried about is the recording. Could start with my phone initially and then transfer it over though too. So. All right, let's finish on a high note now. Come on. Bar is loaded for Ricky Wright, 810 pounds.
Right. The mood.
This theoretically would put Ricky as one of the top lift totals of all time in the 275 class if when he does this in a sanctioned competition. For reference, this will be within 100 pounds of all-time world record. It was 22.75, held by Larry Williams.
Damn.
So this lift will put him within 100 pounds of the world record. All right, Ricky, let's get it. Come on.
Ready when you are, baby. More top. Need top.
Let's do it.
Top. You want top, baby? You got it.
Winds on my past, feeling like love. Frequency was low, I had to rise above. Searching deep inside, I think I found the club. Take me as I am when I'm
What's up, babe?
That's a big my way, ain't no something wrong. Oh, I gave up hours when I did come. Just that type of truth you make your body numb. I don't know.
All right, this is Ricky Wright's third attempt, 275 class. 810-pound attempt for Ricky Wright. This is closing in on a 3 times body weight deadlift. Come on. All the way. Let's go. Get that grip. This pull will put Ricky at 2180 for his total. Closing in on a 1,000-kilogram barrier. All right, this is what we came here for. Let's finish strong. Come on. Let's do this. Come on. Come on, all the way. Go. Right.
Let's go.
Drive it. Get up. Finishing up with a 20, 55 total. You all right?
Turn it down.
Feeling okay?
You all right, baby?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, man. I got to start the next webinar, but I want to touch base with a call later, either later today or later next week. If you could send me the 785 deadlift, your second attempt deadlift, and your second attempt bench, whenever you get a chance, just text it to me. Whenever you get a chance, if you could text me your, if you have your the 785 deadlift, the second attempt deadlift, second attempt bench. Rest up. I'm real proud of you. That's a really good performance. I know, and we'll keep working on the grip. We'll keep working on the strength, but for you to hit a 21:55 total in that time frame is fantastic. You should be really proud of yourself. That's a great job.
Yes, sir.
How'd you feel the training cycle went?
Good. Thank you.
All right, rest up. Enjoy the win. Thank you. Thank you guys for helping out. I really appreciate it. Ricky, I'll touch base later today. I'm going to hop on another call at 12. But you kicked ass. Congratulations. Real proud of you. And keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Great job. All right, take it easy. Get some water. Rest up. And I'll touch base with you later today. Thanks for watching, guys. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.